Today, we're taking writing advice to the extreme. Because if there's one thing this channel's demographic wants, it's stuff that's extreme. Boy, I hope I can make that opening work in editing or this is just gonna suck. If you're looking to supercharge, no, turbocharge, yeah, that sounds more extreme. If you're looking to turbocharge your writing, then look no further because I've got 3 pieces of extreme writing advice to share with you today. All right, first extreme writing tip is to write until it hurts. Not like in a carpal tunnel sort of way. I'll explain. Sometimes when you start a writing session, you aren't really feeling it. It takes a little bit of time for you to sort of warm up. But once you get going, things really start to get going. Other times you may start with a lot of energy depending on what kind of headspace you're in and you don't really need to warm up. Now, regardless of how your writing session starts, at a certain point, writing is going to become more difficult. This is natural. If you've written for a while, maybe an hour, maybe a couple hours, you're going to start to get tired. Your brain gets bored, fatigue starts to set in, the writing doesn't come as easily. This is generally when most people stop writing, and this makes sense. Usually your productivity is starting to decline at this point, the quality of the writing itself might be going down, and it also just gets a lot harder to write. But if you want to take things to the extreme, it's important to push past this. There's a point where you are genuinely too mentally fatigued to produce good writing. But there's also a point before that where your mind is telling you that you are too fatigued to produce good writing. Writing past that point and getting to the actual point of diminishing returns is what's important. It's like with exercise. If you're running, there's a point where you feel like stopping, but that point is usually quite a ways before the point where you are actually physically not capable of running anymore. And it's the zone in between those 2 points where a lot of growth happens. Pushing yourself to write beyond when your mind gets bored or is telling you that you're fatigued is a really important skill to master. Yes, there is absolutely a point of diminishing returns where what you produce is not going to be worth it, but a lot of people stop before they actually get to that point. Your mind will tell you to stop way before the point where you actually probably need to stop. There's a balance that needs to be struck here, but I would say most people, if you just kind of do what you feel like, are going to stop too early. Next up, extreme writing advice tip thing number 2 is to light your novel on fire. Please check with your local fire marshal and fire department and obey all local ordinances before lighting anything on fire. I will go as far as to tell you not to light any fires. Don't light anything on fire, ever. As counterintuitive as it sounds, sometimes destroying a novel is actually a productive way to improve your skills. Attachment is a dangerous thing, like being chained to a wall inside a building that's on fire. There's this paradoxical thing where our obsession about being perfect or making something perfect can actually cause more problems. If you have the perfect idea for a novel and it has to be perfect to the point where you're afraid to even start writing it, lest bringing it to fruition means it doesn't live up to your expectations, then that is a harmful attachment. Fundamentally, this is a fear of wasting time or effort because what you produce may not live up to your expectations. How do we solve this problem? Well, like most problems, with fire. Again, don't haphazardly set fires ever. Don't do that. There's a practice across a few different religious traditions called a mandala. That's not a mandala, that's an example of the Mandela effect. This involves making a nice picture out of colored sand or grains of rice with different colors and things, and then in some traditions, destroying it. The purpose of this practice, the purpose of this exercise is to show the impermanence of all things and the difficulties that arise when we attach ourselves to impermanent things. The act of writing a novel and then destroying it is one of the most powerful ways to get over your attachment to it. The attachments that you have to writing a perfect novel or the attachments that you have to the effort involved in writing a novel can counterintuitively cause problems in both of those areas. Writing something and then destroying it, deleting it, getting rid of it, is a very powerful way to potentially destroy those attachments. Should you do that? I don't know, it sounds kind of extreme, but extreme things are what we're talking about today. And the last piece of extreme writing advice that I'm going to share with you is to do the boring stuff. Wait, what's extreme about doing boring stuff? You can't turbocharge something that's boring. You can divide the work of writing a novel into basically 3 distinct buckets. You have the easy frou-frou stuff like imagining your characters and working out a magic system and thinking about your title. The kind of just ideation, daydreaming stuff that is enjoyable to do, but ultimately not that productive. This stuff is easy to do because it's pleasurable to do. It's easy to just sit there and think about a story. This is why most of the world is thinking about writing a novel, but not actually writing one. You then have the hard stuff, the nose to the grindstone, 12-hour slog, 10,000 word a day cram fests where you're working to the point of absolute exhaustion. You collapse on your keyboard and pass out from dehydration. This is basically what NaNoWriMo gets people to do. Or I guess what it used to get people to do, because they don't exist anymore, apparently. Now, this hard stuff is more difficult, but it's also easier in a sense. Hard work like this, like NaNoWriMo or these other writing challenges, has a certain heroicness to it. There's a satisfaction and an ego element to it. This idea that you did this big, difficult, hard thing. People will celebrate you for these kinds of efforts. They will cheer you on. You can post on social media about it. The triumph and social validation makes doing hard work like this easier, and many people feed off of that. Society as a whole tends to celebrate this struggle, the people who are putting in all this effort and heroically overcoming difficulty to achieve great things. But there's another type of work, a third bucket of work within writing a novel, if you will, that is even more difficult, arguably the most difficult. This is a type of work that requires the most effort to complete, a type of work that is the least pleasurable with the fewest immediate rewards. This is the boring work, the tedious slog through your manuscript to fix commas. The writing of that not exciting but still necessary scene. It's checking spelling and antecedent nouns and verb tenses. Work for which there is seldom internal pleasure and almost never external congratulations. You can post on social media that you spent 12 hours to write 10,000 words, and people will get all excited. You can post that you went through your manuscript diligently over the course of several days to fix all the commas, and people will be less interested. It's not as exciting. We like to think of accomplishment as either this pleasurable, motivation-driven enterprise, or this brutal but glorious march through pain and suffering. But in reality, doing great things often means enduring a lot of boredom. A lot of the work is challenging, but it's also kind of drab. Remarkable things emerge through tedious repetition of highly unremarkable tasks. Writing is rarely this fun, joyous experience, but it's also not always this bloody hand-to-hand combat situation where you're smiting your enemies. There is a surplus in the world right now of people who enjoy doing the pleasurable ideation type stuff and who get satisfaction out of sharing their triumph and their glories through working through these 12-hour sessions of writing madness. There's a surplus of both types of people. What we have a shortage of are people who are willing to do the tedious work day to day to build up success over a long period of time. Most of getting good at writing is this sort of work. Not these 12-hour cram sessions, but these little bits of progress day to day to fix minor tedious problems and slowly get better after many, many days of work. Because of the difficulty of doing this, because of the lack of immediate rewards that you get from it, because you can't call yourself a hero for overcoming this boredom, it makes it one of the most extreme things you can do, but also one of the most important. Speaking of extreme but important things, we are at the extreme end of this video. Extreme being like extreme end, like far end, because we're at the ending and I'm going to end it now by not talking anymore. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this extreme writing advice. I'd love to hear what you think about this in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.